What is going on, programmers? It's number 6, okay? If you're new to programming and you're new to the series, make sure you go back and start from number 1, but otherwise, let's get right into it, okay? We've been given two ints, a and b, and we're going to return true if one of them is 10 or if their sum is 10, okay? So let's start doing this straight away, and we're going to do it the long way first, okay? If a equals 10, return true. Because a is one of them, and if a is 10, then we have to return true. If b is 10, that's meant to be b. If b is 10, then we can return true as well, because if either of them are 10, then we return true. If a plus b is 10, then we know for sure that the sum is 10, so we can return true. And if none of these tests passed, then we know for sure that we return false, right? So we've gone through individually each of these one requirements, but I think that we can actually get this down to a one-liner. So let's go ahead and try that. So it's going to require a little bit more thought about the problem statement, okay? So we have two ints, a and b, and we're returning true if one of them is 10 or if their sum is 10. So let's just return whether a equals 10 or b is 10. And the other situation is a plus b equals 10. So now, if any one of these parts of this logical statement resolve to true, then this entire statement will be true, because false or true always evaluates to true. Anything with an or that has a true always evaluates to true, okay? So that's our one-liner. Let's see if it works. And it did. So thank you, programmers, for joining me for our 6th programming practice. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the content. And let's get down to number 7. Well, hello, programmers. Welcome to coding practice number 7. This one is called near 100. Let's get right down to business. Given an int n, return true if it is within 10 of 100 or 200. Note that the math.abs function computes the absolute value of a number. Okay, so what's the absolute value of a number? Well, the absolute value of a number is just the positive version of that number. So if we have a number like -5, the absolute value of that number is 5. If we have the number 7, the absolute value of the number 7 is just 7. So if the number has a negative out the front, the absolute value just gets rid of that negative, turns it into a positive. All right, so we're going to be using that function to solve this problem here. Okay, so we need to figure out two things about our int n. We need to know whether it's within 10 of 100 or 10 of 200. So let's figure those out and save them to some variables. So let's have an int called difference 100. And that is equal to this math.abs function, n take 100. So now, if n's greater than 100, let's say n's 110. If we take 100 from that, we've got 10. That's the difference between 110 and 100. And then when we do math.abs to that, the answer doesn't change. But let's say that our number n is negative. It's -10, for example. Well, -10 take 100 is a negative number, but the math.abs function will negate the negative and turn it into a positive so that we can get the difference. So that works for every situation. So I'll just indent that a little bit as well. Let's give it 3 spaces. So that's the 100. Now let's do difference 200. So that's going to be the same function. And now we're checking whether it's within 10. So I'm thinking that that's non-inclusive of 10. So we can say if difference 100 is less than 10, return true. If difference 200 is less than 10. Then return true. And if neither of those tests passed and return true, then we know it's not within 100 or within 10 of 200, so we can return false. Okay, so I guess it is inclusive of 10, so we can just change these to less than or equals 2. And that one needs to be 200, not 100. All right, here we go. That is the correct answer. However, I think we can convert this into a spicy little one-liner logical statement, and I think that would be a much better solution. So let's think about our problem here. We're just returning whether our number is within 10 of 100 or within 10 of 200. So we need a logical statement with an or here. So why don't we just take these little calculations here and make them into their own little logical statement. And we can do that by saying return math.abs ntake 100 is less than or equal to 10, or math.abs ntake 200 is less than equal to 10. And then we can actually get rid of these variables altogether. So we're seeing whether our number is within 10 of 100 or our number is within 10 of 200. So let's run that. And it looks like it worked as expected. So thank you very much, guys, for watching this video. And I really hope you are starting to learn something about logical statements and how powerful they are. And hopefully you're implementing some of your own logical statements in your own code. And make sure you like and subscribe to my channel if you're enjoying these videos. And let's get straight down to the next one. What is up, programmers? Welcome to number 8 of our programming practice. And if you haven't started this series, this programming practice series from the very beginning, you might want to start from number 1. But if you're familiar with programming, just jump right into number 9. Why not? All right. So we've got 2 integer values in this one, and we need to return true if one is negative and if one is positive. Except if the parameter negative is true, so that's this parameter here, then return true only if both are negative. Okay, so that's pretty complicated here. It depends on this negative parameter. If this negative parameter is not passed, okay, so it's false, if they say negative equals false, then we just have to return true if A is positive and B is negative, or if A is negative and B is positive. They have to be opposites of each other. Okay, but if the negative flag is passed as true, only return true if they're both negative. Okay, so let's start with this Boolean negative being false. So if not negative, we want to return true if A is negative and B is positive, or if B is negative and A is positive. So that might light up a little light bulb in your head, and you might remember from math class in high school or whatever that a negative number times by a positive number is always negative, and a positive number times a positive number is always positive, and 2 negative multiplied together is always positive 2. Okay, so we can use that to our advantage. Actually, we just need to return whether A times B is less than 0, okay? Because if one of these is negative but not the other, we'll always get a result that is less than 0. So to test that, let's test whether the result of their multiplication is less than 0, and then we'll know for sure that one is positive and one is negative, whether it's B that's positive and A is negative, or the other way around. Okay, so that encapsulates kind of both of those situations, right? So now we have to say, we have to look at the case that the negative pass was flagged. The negative flag was passed, I should say, as true. And now we're just returning whether both of the values are less than 0. So we simply have to return that A is less than 0 and B is less than 0. And you might have noticed in this tutorial, I'm actually using logical statements where possible, because I'm trying to kind of teach you this stuff in terms of these logical statements rather than doing lots of nested if statements and things like that. And so you might have noticed that here, but we can actually make this go one step further with logical statements and have a nice spicy little one-liner instead of this kind of mess of unreadable nested if statements. So actually what we want to do is we want to return, okay, straight away we want to return whether it's negative, the negative flag is passed, right? Whether the negative flag is passed and A and B is negative. Okay, so that's the first situation. Or the other situation is the negative parameter is false and A times B is less than 0, because both of those things multiplied together, is going to be less than 0 when one is negative and one isn't, right? So that is encapsulating that first idea. So now we've got a nice one-liner, and I reckon we can get rid of these brackets as well. And that should pass all tests. But only when I get rid of that bracket. And that bracket. So thank you, everybody, programmers, for joining me on adventure number 9 of programming practice. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to my channel if you want to watch more videos where we have programming adventures such as this, and join me for number 10. What is up, programmers? Welcome to number 10. And congratulations, by the way, for making it this far. That's 10 videos in a row. Well done. But if you're new to the series and you haven't watched the other videos, make sure you go back and start from number 1, unless you're familiar with programming, of course, in which case, follow along with us starting at number 10. So, without further ado, here is number 10, and we're going to be dealing with some strings. Given a string, return a new string where not has been added to the front. So not and a space has been added to the front. However, if the string already begins with not, return the string unchanged, use dot equals to compare two strings. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to check whether our string has the word not out the front. Okay, and to safely do that, we have to make sure that our string is long enough, okay, to be checked for that word not. Okay, because if we say, all right, let's check if the first 4 characters of our string is the word not, but our string is only 1 character long, well, crazy things happen. You've gone out of bounds in your string and the whole program is going to crash. So the first thing we need to do is we actually need to check the length of our string. So if the string length, okay, and length is a function, that's why we have these brackets here. If the string length, okay, is less than 3, then there's no possible way that it starts with the word not. Okay, there's no way, because it's got less than 3 characters and not is 3 characters, so there's just no way. So what we need to do is we need to return not and plus the string, because if it hasn't got not out the front, then we have to put not out the front and a space, and that's the answer. Okay, but if the string length is not less than 3, then it might have not out of the front. Okay, so let's start with another if statement here. If the string dot substring, okay, we're going to take a substring of that string. We're going to take a section of that string and have a look at it. So indexing always starts from 0 in Java, so the first character of a string is actually considered the 0th character in Java land. So we're going to start from 0 and we're going to go up to, but not including the 3rd index. So we're going to go 0, 1, 2, and then we're going to stop at 3. So that's what that 3 is there. So if the substring of string from 0 to 3 dot equals, and that's the function they give up here to kind of compare strings rather than using our old double equals like we do with integer. An integer, we would use the dot equals here. So if it dot equals not, okay, then we know the first part of our string is the word not, and we're just going to return the string by itself. Now, if the first part of that string isn't not, if we fail this test, then we need to return the word not plus the string. Okay, so hopefully that should cover all of our bases. And it looks like it has. So thank you, everybody. And congratulations again for completing 10 of these little programming practice sessions that we've been having. And join me for number 11.